All right. Today is October the 23rd of 2022, and we're here with Robert Taylor, Justice of the Peace, Place 2 in Potter County. And Robert's running for re-election. So, Robert, welcome. And let's tell the voters a little bit about who you are, where you grew up, and why you want to run for re-election.
Well, I'm 67 years old, lived in Amarillo since I was 10, started fifth grade here. We moved down from Wisconsin after my dad passed away to kind of keep my aunt close by when her husband was in Vietnam, and I believe that was in 65. And been here in Precinct 2 ever since then. Went to Whittier, Travis, Paula Durham, Amarillo College. Went into the military right after high school. Got out of the police department 6 months after I established residency in the state again, and started at the police department in '78. Worked there till '85. Worked as a patrol sergeant on the evening shift. And then I went into private unemployment, what they call it. I went into landscape business, and I did that for 5 years, had two more kids, and I needed something a little bit more stable. Went back into law enforcement at Sheriff's Office, Potter County. Stayed there for 13 years. Went back to the city at the airport for a year as a police officer out there, and then went to Amarillo College and finished 14 years of service there, and then became the JP back in 2019. So it was a total of 36 years of law enforcement, 4 years in the military, and now 4 years as a JP locally.
So, what did you like? So, it sounds like you liked law enforcement.
I was always told, and my training officer was Jim Mitchell, who was died in line of duty. He said, once it gets in your blood, he said, you'll quit, but you'll be back. He said, I can guarantee it. And he came over, he always called me rookie, even though we were both sergeants. He said, come on, rookie, let's go get coffee. And he was always trying to get me to come back in. And, it took 5 years for it to settle back in, but it's been good to me.
So you've pretty much had a life of service to the community then.
Yeah, I guess you could consider that. Somebody says, some people think that that's good, and some people think that's bad. And if I was, a 40-year career politician, that some people might consider that to be not so good. But I think, 36 years in law enforcement and in the military, and then the judge, justice of the peace, I think that's, that totals up to about 44 years. So. And I hadn't looked at it like that, but, it's been an experience that I think instilled a lot in not only me, but my family and family members.
So you went from locking people up to being the judge. So you're on the other side now.
And it is, right, and it is a little different. Some people think that because you are in law enforcement, you're always going to favor law enforcement on the, when they testify. And basically, when they testify, it's on Class C misdemeanor traffic citations and stuff. Still have to prove your case. If you don't meet all the requirements and don't prove that case, then, if the jury either, doesn't find you the defendant guilty, or I'll dismiss it because you didn't prove your case.
So you're even-handed.
I think you have to be fair and to everybody involved. You have to listen to both sides. You have to make a decision. You have to follow the guidelines of what the law says. You have to prove in order for you to be found guilty on these violations. And the same thing is true with small claims, debit claims, evictions. You have to hear both sides. Sometimes paperwork ain't right, and, if the paperwork's not right, then you have to dismiss, refile, and go about the business of being a court. I try not to legislate from or what do they call that, legislate from the bench. Mm-hmm. All my stuff is usually black and white. There's no really gray area in there.
Now, you're not interpreting the law.
Right.
You're just applying it.
That is correct.
Yeah. So what made you decide to run for JP in 2019?
Well, there was a lot of things going on in the office that I considered not to be what a judge should be doing. And I was at a stage where I could actually retire from law enforcement or stay in law enforcement. And I thought I would be a good candidate for that office and decided to run to improve the look, what people see in the court, and bring back some integrity and things of that nature back into the office.
Who was the JP before you?
It was Judge Herman.
Oh, yes.
And he had some incidents that he brought some news attention to him, and I said that's not somebody that should be a judge.
Yeah,
in my eyes. And so I ran, and I called him up because I've been to a few gatherings with him, and so I called him and let him know. I said I'm gonna run against you in the Republican primary. He said, "Well, I appreciate the heads up." So, and we did our campaign, and I won the primary, and then I had a Democrat opponent, and so that was another 6-7 months from the primary, and I won that election in November of 2018, I believe, and took office on the 1st of January of 2019.
So you beat them all,
and I hope to do it again. It's I'm still young enough to, and I deal with all age groups. This past year, we did 560 truancy cases, and it's unusual for me to be walking in or not unusual for me to be walking in the mall or at the grocery store, and some kid that I dealt with, says, "You straightened me out," and it was because I believe I listened to what they had to say, but I still have guidelines to follow, and of course you can't please everybody on those, but you need to listen to the facts and things of that sort and put it all together and make your decision on what you want to do.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the way it is in a lot of things. If you just listen to people, that helps solve a lot of problems, because then they'll just talking to somebody for them helps them realize the solution, because they realize it's them that's the problem.
Right. You offer your suggestions and go about how you might apply that without giving legal advice, because we're not allowed to do that. And if I get to a point like that, you need to see a lawyer. I can't help you any farther than what I have. Yeah.
Sure. So what do you like best about being the JP?
There's numerous things that you do. I like meeting people. I like talking with people. Bad thing about that, as a judge, I can't always talk to you, because if you're involved in a case, then I can't talk to you about that case unless I have both parties there. But I can drink a cup of coffee with you, tell you what the weather's going to not be based on which channel I watched on TV. But I think just the being able to converse with the general public, getting involved with the community. When they did the underpass mural on 10th Street, I got to be on that. They had the Arts of Amarillo, Art Amarillo, or Art East Amarillo, which was at the Wesley Community Center, and we sat on that. I attend some of the barrio meetings. There's not a whole lot I can do. Can't hold an office, but I can make suggestions, and I talk and give them what I think. In our little, sometimes they'll divide the people up into groups of 5 or 4, and we'll talk, see what kind of things that we can do to help the community out. I've been on several cleanups in the parks and alleys and areas in the Alamo area, down by the Quarter Horse and Bowie area. I know I've been to 3, but, I try not to, to me it's no big deal, but to the public it might be, seeing their judge out in the community and doing their things. Can't attend to everything, but I try to do what I can do just to make our area of town a little bit more pleasable to others.
So what is the one thing about your position that you like dealing with the least?
Well, and I think this goes back to nobody likes to give death messages. I did that as a police officer on occasion or two over the last 36 years. But over the last 45 months, I've had about 540 death investigations. And those range anything from baby deaths to people, that are in their 90s that have either died at home, died with an accident. Some of those are hard to deal with and calm the family members. And it's something personal to them. So, we went through training, and there was a guy that, that says, this is how I do it. And he was a judge from down south. I mean, he got down on one knee and was talking to, one of the survivors of the family and said, I'm Judge, I'll use my name, I'm Judge Taylor, and I'm sorry for your loss. And what I'm here today to do is determine the cause of your loved one's death. And sometimes I can do that, through medical records, talking with the family, and then, worst case scenario, send them down for an autopsy. And I think that there are people that fear autopsy for their loved ones because they see it on TV all the time, and it's similar, but it's not the same. I've had to go on some of those myself when I was at the sheriff's office and PD, and not something you like to go to, but it's something that's necessary. And then the pathologist makes the call on that, and then you finish the death certificate stuff. But that was a whole lot more of those than what I thought would be in the cycle of what my duties are. Telling somebody they got to move out of their house, because you didn't pay your rent or you didn't pay your taxes. Somebody inherits their house and they never paid the taxes on it after they inherited it, and then pretty soon it's sold out from them, and you're following the state laws on what happened, and somebody bought their house at a sheriff's sale. They don't understand that, but so they say. But you try to explain to them, this is how this progressed to get to where it is, and so that's again a communication that you have to have with those places, and you usually do that communication in the courtroom. Now, after the case is heard, and they can appeal it. Then it's I can explain why I made the decision that I did in more detail. So not to pacify anybody, but to make sure they understand why it happened. And I think most people, when they do that, they realize that, yeah, he was right.
I guess on a tax sale, they have 6 months to redeem it, pay it back. And
I'm not sure how that works, because once I make a ruling on it, if they decide to appeal, it goes to a county court, and I never hear it again. Sometimes I'm curious, if I'm talking.
It used to be 2 years, I thought, but I think the legislature changed it to where if somebody buys something at a tax sale, that person has the right to pay that person back, plus any improvements for the taxes, plus any improvements, and they have to take the money.
Right.
Now, I'm sure that doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
There is some process there, I think.
Yeah. I'm sure there is, but it's
you don't get
what
to
I
see
call
that.
It's above my line of jurisdiction. So.
Yeah, once you're done with it, it's out of your purview.
All right. The same thing I did when I was, as a law enforcement officer, when you stop vehicles for traffic citations. That my duty tended to end at the end of the citation. Now, that was entirely up to them whether they wanted to pay that fine, take it to court. But, I was always taught, don't worry about winning or losing the traffic ticket. It's a traffic ticket. You made the stop. You did the thing for the night. It was a speeding or something. You might save somebody's life. Just take that. as it is. If they beat you in court and it's dismissed or found not guilty, well, you still did your duty, what you're supposed to do.
You're trying to protect the public.
Right. And, you know, you have to do that when you're doing bonds or what we call magistrations, commonly referred to as arraignments by the public. But you have to take, and it's people don't understand sometimes why a bond is this amount and other bonds are high and this one's low. We base our decisions on bonding, setting of bonds by about 5 sentences. And that's all the detail. You don't have the complete report. You have an arrest report. Some of them will go into a little bit more detail, and it might be a page and a half, which is 10 sentences they go into because you only got 5 lines on it. And then it'll go into page 2, and it might be a couple lines on that one. But that's so if you don't see the offense in that report, then you know there's no probable cause for the rest, and so you dismiss it. But I always tell them, when I dismiss it today, and you're not going to be bonded out, we're just not going to accept the charge on it today. It doesn't prevent the officers from coming back with that complete report, refiling it with the district attorney or refiling it with the county attorney, and then they're rearrested on a warrant, and then they're back in here for arraignment for magistrates again. So, and I tell them that if I have to dismiss one because there's not enough in the paperwork, and then you also have a criminal history that you is made available to the judges, and which that has a lot to do with what you see today, the in and outs. Get arrested, and then you're right out the back door in some of the states that we're doing. Texas has come up with a policy that you can do this or you can do this, but you can't do that. So there's some do's and don'ts when you're making those magistrations, and you follow those guidelines. And there's certain things that homicides and things of that sort. It's probably going to be a high bond because I'm especially if you got a history. I don't want to set a low enough bond where an individual and a bond it's not supposed to be a punishment, but then you have to look out for the safety of the community too, and you don't want to put somebody back out. And I have to set a bond. I can't. No bonds are very rare at a JP level. Now, a district judge may set a no bond, but it's not recommended that we do it.
Well, you're dealing more, with a little bit different animal.
Right, but you still you want to set it high enough that it's not a punishment, but it protects the public. And as long as you, I think, follow those guidelines, some people may not agree with your dollar amount. Or, and there's some people that think that the setting of a bond is a punishment. But, and I've talked to a few people, it's not a punishment. We can't do that. So you set too high of a bond, you get a free trip to Austin, and you have to justify
that you assess an amount you assess to ensure that they'll show back up.
Right. That's the main thing for a bond. And now they've added a couple of things onto us in the past week, 10 days, that we can add as a bonding condition. They had a mental evaluation form that we did, but a lot of people didn't get to complete that mental evaluation because they bonded out of jail. So now you can stipulate that within 30 days after release from custody that you'll have to go to a mental health facility and get that done. And then you bring it back to the judge. Otherwise, it's violation of your bond, and you're rearrested. They also got another one that says no guns, ammunition while you're out on bond. So, little something new.
Always more rules.
Always rules, but people got to follow them. You hope. So, not everybody does.
So you also deal in small claims?
Small claims up to $20,000. I've had a few, not so many of small claims where, somebody's owes them money for transmissions or, car repairs and never paid it, or they paid it and their car broke down again and I think it's a mechanic thing, so they take them to court on those. And a few of those. We do a lot of debt claims, especially since, the pandemic. We do those up to $20,000. Pandemic kind of got everybody where you wasn't employed or you didn't have enough money for this, or you're no longer employed because your business shut down. Now you can't pay those bills. And so, some just never made arrangements to pay them off. And then you get these little companies that buy that card for pennies on the dollar. So whatever they can make, trying to get you to pay that full amount loan back, is his profit for them. So,
yep.
Those are hard to do because I understand people, lose their jobs. They have death in the family, and they, no longer can pay that thing. But it's sort of like student loans, I guess.
Well, I mean, a responsible citizen is going to try to make some sort of arrangement, and if they're paying them something every month,
and that's what most of them
good
want.
Faith, then they're okay.
I think the good thing about debt claims is that you might have a 26, 28, 31% interest on some cards. It's ridiculous, and it used to be 12%, and anything over that was highway robbery. But you get people that got those high interest rates, 26%. Got to have a credit card. But once they go to court, it lowers that to 5.5 right now. It was 5%, but just jumped up another 0.5%. So
maybe I need to quit paying mine.
Get a better interest rate. It takes time, but it also doesn't do a whole lot of stuff for your credit. So and the same thing if you're wanting to buy a house or a car or anything, that credit rating kind of sticks with you.
Yep. Yeah. Sounds like those people's credit's gone, though. So,
if you don't have any, it's already in the hole. It might take you 10 years to get out. I think our younger generation. And when I was going to school, they taught us how to balance a bank book. They taught us how to do income tax filing. And now everybody just goes out and pays $50 and has somebody else do it.
Yeah, we really live in a pretty affluent manner, most people, even though they don't realize it. They've all got cable TV, color TV, cell phones, 2 vehicles. Even the poorest of the poor have all that, pretty much. So we really live a lot better than we think.
And I knock on a lot of doors here lately, and I'm not surprised on some of the conditions on some of the houses and how, what the standard of living, some, and the upkeep of their residence or the insides or, and same thing when you're doing death investigations and you have to go to somebody's house. I mean, some of them are not in the best condition. Some of them are immaculate, I like a house that's lived in, so, sometimes mine's not the cleanest, or anti-clutter, but, you see the best and the worst in people when you go out to, either the residence or at a crime scene or at a vehicle accident. So you see good things, you see bad things.
Yep. Yep. Well, I own a lot of rental properties, so it'll blow your mind what we get to see.
Yeah.
But, it doesn't matter how much money somebody makes or has. It doesn't mean you can't be clean.
Right.
That's laziness. And and it doesn't matter the price range either. We can have stuff for $2,000 a month and they can be pigs, and the cheapest stuff we have, they are immaculate. So it has no bearing on their economic status. It's just the way certain people are. I just can't understand how certain people live the way they do.
I know I used to, I took the air conditioning, refrigeration through Emerald College, and I was fixing refrigerators on the side. And sometimes you take your bag in, you put it down, and it moves by itself, you know. And I'm going, you know, how much that stuff you know, you gotta watch what you bring home too. So, you know.
Oh yeah.
It's, I never have liked, you know, I've got always have to do my yard with bug stuff when people move in and out from a rental, you know, because once they get done eating that what they left, they want to move, and I guess, you know, so I have to keep that out of my house, so to speak.
Yep.
But we do what we got to do to keep things going the way you think they ought to go.
So you have an opponent in the race.
I
right?
do.
So that's why people need to show up and vote.
I encourage everybody. I've been reading signs. I got one. I got a billboard. It's electronic, and on one of that signs that comes in between mine and some of the other ones, it says, "Had enough, vote Republican."
Yep.
But I don't want people just to take granted for, you know, that it's going to be a red wave. It's not a red wave if you stay at home.
That's right. Everybody
Right.
needs to vote.
Right. That's just not for my race. It's for, you know, all the races, you know, from my position. I'm the last race on the ballot. And that goes from mine all the way to the top of the governor's. You vote the way you want. We hope it's, you know, being a Republican, I hope it's on the red side. But get out and vote, no matter how you feel.
Yeah, we're only going to tell you to vote for Robert Taylor.
Right.
The rest is up to you, as long as they're Republican for the most part.
Right.
So, well, Robert, we really appreciate you coming in, and good luck on the race. And I'm sure we'll see you on the night of the 8th with a big grin on your face.
Well, I've somebody always tell me you never accept defeat until it's, you know, until the fat lady sings, you know, and so I don't expect to see her on Tuesday the 8th. So.
Well, from all I've heard, you've done a good job as JP over there, and I think the people in your precinct know that. So I'm sure you'll have another 4-year term.
I appreciate that, Dan. Thank you.
All right. Have a good day.
Thanks.